Imagine being trapped in total darkness, your body twisted into an inhuman position, unable to move an inch. Every breath becomes a struggle, every second an eternity. Today, I'm going to tell you two true stories of caving that turned into absolute nightmares, where parents had to fight to save their children from the bowels of the earth. The first story begins on a perfect summer day in 1992. A group of 10 young scouts decided to explore Killian's Cave, nestled in the wooded hills of West Virginia. Among them was Kevin Martinez, a curious and reckless 13-year-old. While his friends stay cautiously in the main passages, Kevin notices something the others have missed: a narrow crack in the rock wall. This secret passage intrigues him. It's no wider than his shoulders, but to him, it could be a shortcut to an unexplored part of the cave. Without warning anyone, he crouches down and begins to squeeze through. The cold rock presses against his ribs as he crawls inch by inch through the L-shaped passage. At first, everything goes well. Kevin progresses slowly but surely, excited to discover what awaits him on the other side. Then he reaches the bend in the passage, where the tunnel forms an acute angle. To continue, he has to contort his body painfully, hyperextend his knees, and twist his legs into a position that makes him grimace. But Kevin is determined. With one last effort, he pushes and manages to get past the obstacle. For a few seconds, he feels victorious. He's done it. But the euphoria lasts only a moment. Now that he wants to turn back, he realizes with horror that he can't move. The position he adopted to get past the elbow has trapped him like a stone vise. His hyperextended knees refuse to bend the other way. The more he panics, the more his muscles contract. He is completely stuck, alone in the darkness. Meanwhile, his friends are starting to worry. They count and recount. 10 of them went in, but now there are only 9. Where is Kevin? They call out to him and search everywhere, but no one has noticed the narrow passageway he has entered. Finally, Kevin hears their voices in the distance and gathers his strength to shout. His voice, muffled and distorted by his position, reaches them like a terrifying moan. They rush toward the sound and discover his feet sticking out of the crack. It's impossible to see exactly where he is. Some try to pull him out by his ankles, others shout advice, but nothing works. Kevin is in excruciating pain. His compressed rib cage prevents him from breathing normally, and his locked knees send jolts of pain through his body with every attempt to move. The news quickly reaches the group leader, who is none other than Kevin's mother. Imagine her terror when she realizes that her son is trapped in the rock. She rushes into the cave and, seeing only her child's feet sticking out of the sinister crack, immediately understands the gravity of the situation. After analyzing Kevin's position, she realizes that there is only one solution. He must repeat exactly the same movements he made on the way in, but in reverse. This means reproducing the excruciating contortion that trapped him in the first place. She grabs her son's ankles and explains what they are going to do. Kevin cries. He is scared. He does not want to endure this torture again. But his mother's firm voice leaves him no choice. She begins to pull. Kevin's screams echo through the tunnel like the cries of a wounded animal. Every inch he moves tears his skin against the rough rock. His knees feel like they are about to give way. The other scouts outside listen to these terrifying sounds in silence, helpless. His mother trembles, her hands bloody from pulling, her heart broken by her child's cries. But she doesn't let go. Inch by inch, millimeter by millimeter, Kevin's body slowly emerges from its rocky trap. After what seems like an eternity, Kevin's torso finally appears. With one last desperate effort, his mother pulls him completely out of the passage. Kevin collapses, sobbing and shaking all over. But the ordeal is not over. Adrenaline and claustrophobia take hold of him. Suddenly, the entire cave seems like a prison. Overcome by an uncontrollable panic attack, Kevin must be quickly escorted to the exit. He stumbles, gasps for breath, his vision blurring. When he finally emerges into the daylight, he collapses onto the grass, gasping for air as if he had nearly drowned. This traumatic experience will mark Kevin for the rest of his life. But as terrifying as it is, this story is nothing compared to what follows. For the second story is even more terrifying. It features not a child trapped, but an entire family trapped in the depths, fighting for their lives for days on end. On June 18, 1990, Mark Dubois decided to take his 2 sons, Julian, 13, and Thomas, 9, to explore the Black River Cave in West Virginia. Mark had over 20 years of caving experience and was eager to share his passion with his boys. They arrived well equipped with helmets, knee pads, and carbide lamps. Their exploration began perfectly. They crossed the first galleries with ease, admiring the large hall with its cathedral ceiling. After a quick snack, the trio ventured into the labyrinth, a complex network of narrow tunnels and winding passages. Faced with a 2.5-meter drop, Mark decides to leave their backpacks behind to make it easier to move forward. The backpacks contain their emergency food, extra water, and most importantly, their spare lamps. Confident in his freshly recharged lamps, Mark thinks they will be back well before they run out. But barely 200 meters further into the labyrinth, Thomas's flashlight begins to dim. Mark reassures his sons that they can turn back. But a few minutes later, Julian's flashlight goes out. Mark pushes on, his own flashlight flickering weakly. They move as quickly as they can through the narrow passages, but the maze completely disorients them. Mark tries to find their way back, but every fork in the path leads to another dead end. And then, as if the cave itself wants to seal their fate, Mark's last flashlight goes out. Total darkness engulfed them. A blackness so deep that it seemed to have a physical consistency. The air became heavier, the silence more oppressive. The anxious voices of his sons pierced the void. "Dad, are we lost?" Mark tries to stay calm. He can't afford to panic. His children need him. By collecting the used carbide from their lamps and using urine from the water tank, he manages to relight a makeshift lamp. The pathetic glow allows them to reach a small chamber where they can sit down. Mark sits his sons on their knee pads to insulate them from the cold ground and tries to reassure them. But the truth weighs heavily on him. No one knows they are here. He didn't tell anyone about their plans, and their car parked near the entrance gives no clue as to which cave they entered. The minutes stretch into hours. The makeshift lamp goes out, plunging them back into total darkness. The constant temperature of the cave, 54 degrees, creeps into their bones. Without food or water, their bodies quickly weaken. Outside, their absence is finally noticed. On a Wednesday, a local resident reports their stationary vehicle to the police. Investigators contact the family in Florida, who confirm that Mark had intended to explore the caves in Pendleton County. But no one knows which one. In the cave, Mark and his sons lose hope. Their bodies become dehydrated, their throats irritated by the dust. They huddle together for warmth. Mark thinks about all the safety protocols he neglected: 3 light sources per person, informing someone of their plans, bringing enough supplies. Julian and Thomas begin to see flashes of light, hallucinations caused by their critical condition. They cry silently, clinging to their father, who whispers words of comfort. All 3 pray for a miracle. On Friday morning, they have been trapped for almost 5 days. The rescue operation intensifies, with several groups of cavers and emergency responders converging on the site. For the rescuers, the chances of finding survivors after such a long period without food or water seem slim. When the backpack is discovered deep in the labyrinth, hope flickers. Its position suggests that the family ventured even deeper into the network of tunnels. The teams prepare for what they now believe to be a recovery mission. "We're probably looking for victims," whispers one rescuer to his colleague as they enter the labyrinth. The oppressive silence of the cave seems to confirm their fears. The labyrinth itself is a formidable challenge. The narrow passages force rescuers to crawl on their stomachs, their helmets scraping the rock. The air is thick with dust and the acrid smell of decomposed carbide hangs in the atmosphere. Suddenly, one of the rescuers stops, listening intently. Faintly, somewhere ahead, there is a sound. A weak voice, barely audible. So faint that at first he doubts he heard it. "Did you hear that?" he whispers urgently. The team stops, holding their breath. Then the sound returns, a broken, desperate cry for help. The rescuers exchange incredulous glances. How is this possible? After 5 days in this freezing temperature, without food or water, they quicken their pace, adrenaline chasing away their exhaustion. When their lamps finally illuminate the huddled figures of Mark and his sons, they can't believe their eyes. Mark is slumped against the wall, his arms protecting his children. Julian and Thomas are motionless, their small bodies shaking with shallow breaths. These people are on the verge of death. The rescuers quickly assess their condition. The extraction will be perilous, and they fear that the family will not survive the journey back. Thomas, too weak to move, is strapped to a stretcher. Two rescuers take turns carrying him through the narrow passages. Julian, although slightly stronger, needs help walking. Mark, determined to get out on his own, stumbles frequently. After hours of relentless effort, the rescue team finally emerges from the cave. The sunlight contrasts sharply with the darkness they have just left behind. Doctors rush forward, assess the family's condition, and administer first aid. Against all odds, the Dubois family has survived this incredible ordeal. Their story will remain engraved in the annals of caving as a testament to the human will in the face of the impossible.